going really out there with this one. The Taurus archetype appreciates the good things in life, the simple pleasures, balance, beauty, a gourmet picnic under an ancient tree overlooking a field of wildflowers. The sun is warm, the breeze is cooling, a lovely companion is there to share it all with you. That's Taurus. And Venus and Taurus, chef's kiss. Mwah. But instead of a lovely companion on this conjunction, we get Uranus destabilizing things here. Uranus is revolutionary. It's always looking for some new, innovative way of doing things. That's the archetype. And when Uranus joins Venus in Taurus, we're given a deeper vision of the meaning of this physical earth sensual realm. I'm going to tell you about this guy named Democritus. He was a Greek philosopher. He was born in 490 BCE, and he is the perfect human avatar for Uranus in Taurus. Democritus shook up the foundations of truth by deeply examining the role that our five senses play in constructing reality, and he royally pissed off Plato. The Taurus archetype in general is commonly associated with wealth and valuing money and the material world. Well, Democritus got this massive inheritance. He spent every penny going to all the foreign lands that he could possibly go to accumulate knowledge. Knowledge was his currency. Democritus had this Uranian way of seeing things like no one had ever seen them before. He was one of the first people ever to bring up the concept of an atomic structure hiding out of sight within everything in the physical world. This is Uranus and Taurus. It's breaking down the material world into molecular parts, into atoms, into quarks. It's like, what's beneath all this material stuff? Democritus was known as the laughing philosopher, and it's not because he was jolly or happy. That would be too obvious and not Uranian at all. Democritus laughed because he was mocking other people for their ignorance. Contemporary philosopher Plato could not stand Democritus. It's said of all the vast writings that Democritus created, they were all burned at his death at the request of Plato. We only know of Democritus because other concurrent philosophers were quoting him in their philosophy. You and me, let's be honest about this, okay? Democritus was probably insufferable in real life. I mean, especially when he was laughing at people, but this is why I'm bringing him up. It's his stance on epistemology. Epistemology is an investigation of what distinguishes belief from opinion. Truth, he says, is difficult because it's at the bottom of our subjective sensory perceptions. Uranus is concerned with truth that's beyond the obvious, just like Democritus was. With Venus in Taurus, the sensual aspect of this sign is at its peak. It's all about the five senses, really. Each of us perceives through our senses as well. Two people can experience the same event and have two vastly different accounts of the truth. Humans use perceptions to distill truth, but the truth is subjective and it's distorted by an individual's personal reaction to that sensory data. Does that make sense? Hope so. One of Democritus's ideas was captured in Aristotle's Metaphysics. Even to the senses of each individual, things do not always seem the same. Diogenes Laertius, he was a Greek biographer, and here's what he quotes. Democritus says, "By convention hot, by convention cold, but in reality, atoms and void. And also in reality, we know nothing, since truth is at the bottom." Of knowledge, there are two forms. One legitimate and one is bastard. To the bastard belong all of this group: sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch. The other is legitimate and separate from all that. When the bastard can no longer see any smaller, or hear, or smell, or taste, or perceive by touch, but finer matters have to be examined, then comes the legitimate, since it has a finer organ of perception. Our sensory perception is invalid, according to Democritus. It's insufficient, it's subjective, it's unreliable. Legitimate knowledge can only be achieved through our intellect. Nothing exists except atoms and empty space. Everything else is opinion. Democritus is missing something in his reasoning because in order to even get to a point where we could conceive of all of these things he's talking about, we have to have physical senses. We have to have a baseline concept of reality in the first place. And Venus and Taurus reminds us how luscious the experience of the five senses can be. It's not ignorant to indulge in these moments of pleasure. It's beautiful. Uranus and Taurus and Democritus, Democ-Uranus, points out that there are modes of operation in the material world and an absolute truth that runs river strong underneath of it all. The atoms, the void, all the things. But the five senses are the gateway to any possible form of understanding that, but not just to understanding it, but to even give a care about it. Like, who cares about absolute truth and atoms and etc. if we don't have the sensual beauty, we don't have the sensual experience of humanity. That's why I believe we incarnate onto Earth, is to have that, because otherwise, without a body, it's easy to understand all this stuff. Thanks for watching this, and I will talk to you next time.